Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar, Get the Most Out of Family Meals. I'm Trish Kazakis, a registered dietitian and the corporate nutrition manager, and I will be your moderator for today. Please note that the information provided in today's webinar is for educational purposes only. It's not intended to be a substitute for individual medical advice, medical nutrition therapy, or individual counseling. I'll be rejoining you again at the end of the webinar to moderate the Q&A session, but I am pleased to announce to you your presenter for today's webinar. It's Wegmans Nutritionist Brittany Reynolds, and with that, Brittany, take it away.
Thank you, Trish, for the warm introduction, and welcome everybody to today's webinar. As a dietitian and mom to three, a topic that I'm certainly passionate about, getting the most out of family meals. And a timely topic, as September is actually recognized as National Family Meals Month, with a movement behind the name that really intends to shed a light on the importance of family meals. And in fact, I read one recent stat that consumer research indicated that nearly 90% of adults agree that sharing family meals is important. However, I think we know that those numbers of those participating in regular family meals probably don't match that 90%. So that's where we're here to hopefully help to provide some compelling insight into why family meals count, and hopefully practical tips to get more time around the table with your family during this month, and of course every month as well too. I want to briefly share a pretty neat full circle moment, which actually dates back to 1988, when my family was featured in a local newspaper article titled "Mealtime is Sharing Time." And within the article, there were tips for enjoyable family dinners. Doctors explained the many health benefits of the family table. And my mom was quoted with comments like, and I wrote this one down, "It's not possible every night of the week, and it's not always the best meal in the world, but we try." And another, she said, "Based on what the kids eat, it's sometimes not worth the cooking, but it's worth it for the time we spend together." And I think what struck me as the most interesting from nearly 4 decades ago, aside from the fact that my mom holding on to a newspaper clipping that was now, it was in fact worth holding on to. But it's that much of the conversation around the challenges and benefits of family meals remains exactly the same. So many years later, my mom's words resonate with me as the parent, and in turn now sharing much of the same really enthusiasm around family meals with you folks. Well, let's start by setting the table. And while I won't be diving into specific details as to say what specifically you should be putting on your family's plate, it is important that we share what we believe our Wegmans healthy eating philosophy outlines, and that lays the foundation for nourishing your body and mind with foods that support health, fuel movement, honor your traditions, and ultimately, and importantly, make you and your family happy. Now, of course, feeling your best starts with fueling your body and with the right foods. So this is where focusing on balanced meals can help you make the most of what you put on your family table. So a balanced meal is one that has 3 food groups, such as a veggie, protein, and whole grain. So that's shown here on this plate example. And when you include at least 3 food groups, it helps to ensure that you're getting a variety of nutrients and minerals without having to overthink your diet, so not micromanaging your diet. And since the current recommendation still stands at consuming 5 cups of fruits and veggies each day, it is important to strive for 1 food group at each meal to be your fruit or vegetable to help us reach that goal. So I've briefly set the table. Now, what should a family meal look like? Well, spoiler here, but there is no one right way to do a family meal. Of course, when we think of traditions and practices around food, we know that those look different for each household. And that's really the beauty in the family table, is that it's uniquely yours. So for many, it could be parents with young children, whether that's 2 parents, 1 parent, sitting down with young kids. For others, it might be eating with elderly parents or having multi-generations around the table. Sometimes you may have just a nuclear family at mealtime, but other times, especially depending on schedules, which I will be touching on those barriers, but it may be a mix of different family members. So kind of a mix and match situation. Maybe it's a reoccurring dinner that you have with friends, or especially I think, COVID brought this even more to the table, if you will, but joining a loved one via Zoom while you share a meal virtually. Now, every family will choose to implement, of course, the family table that's the unique right way for them. Of course, that fits their lifestyle and the feature of all its members. So I'll share more specific benefits of the family table here momentarily, but the why behind family meals is really powerful, folks, for many reasons. And I think we may have always known intuitively that family meals are good for us, but for several decades, the research has been done too. We know studies have been discussing and discovering the proof and the benefits of family meals. So some high level that I've outlined here, yet very compelling benefits include connecting and growing together as a family, improved aspects of physical health, a sense of structure and security for the family, consuming more healthful dietary patterns, which include an overall increased consumption of fruit and veggie intake. Beyond the nourishment provided at the table, eating family meals together really just might be like the most ultimate parenting or family hack. So again, multiple studies have demonstrated the benefits of family mealtime that reach beyond the table too. So I'll outline just a few here. For our young toddlers and kids, language development is enhanced, vocabulary is expanded. When we think of our meal times, they really offer a unique opportunity for children to learn as they hear conversations that include explanations and narratives, supporting those communication skills that are developing. Children and teens who frequently have family meals together are more likely to obtain better grades in school, have a higher self-esteem, and lower risk of substance abuse. So overall, family meals, they lead to a greater sense of resilience amongst kids and teens, or the ability to bounce back from hardships that they may encounter. Eating together helps to reinforce an overall healthy relationship with food. When you think of mealtime, we know it impacts all of our senses, the sight, the touch, the taste, and the smell of food, and as well, of course, the listening to family conversations. So relationships are deepened around the family table. They offer opportunities to spend time together, reconnect after a busy day, communicate, do our best to listen to each other, share our values, our struggles, our ideas. And I previously mentioned that frequent family meals and healthy dietary patterns go hand in hand. And studies also support for this reason that children are less likely to become obese just by eating regular family meals, and that the family table benefits the maintenance of normal body weight in adults as well. So I think the bottom line, folks, is that when families regularly share meals together, truly everyone benefits. The children, the parents, and really even the community at large, both at and beyond the table. So of course, it's easy for me to say, eating together as a family is wonderful, and I really think you should do more of it. But of course, the reality of schedules, different ages and stages, food preferences, and so on can obviously make family meal times sometimes feel like a struggle or frankly disappointing. So I'd like to offer just a few tips to hopefully make sitting around the table together a little more achievable and a lot more enjoyable. So first, the more frequent, we get asked how often should we be consuming family meals? Ultimately, the more frequent the family meal, the better. Regular family meals, research truly points to 3 or more times a week. This is when we see associations with positive outcomes, but it's okay to start small. So for some of you, this may be something that's completely new to you and your family. So I recommend beginning with a goal to add just 1 family meal per week, and then gradually increase this frequency really for what works best for you and your routine. So it's not my place here to, encourage folks to sit down 7 nights a week. That's not my reality. So I think for folks to understand that it's okay to start small, and that might be just starting with one family meal per week, and that's okay. Be flexible. Of course, if you can't commit to a traditional together as a family most weeknights, that's again okay. I think folks should look at weekends and opportunities around breakfast or lunch to spend time together. One of my favorite family meal times that we look forward to is our Sunday breakfast, especially because we typically have slower mornings, allowing for more time for connection and just frankly to sit together. And I'll point out too, even if just 2 family members are home, I mentioned that mix and matching, trying to eat together as frequently as you can. I'll be transparent. There are evenings where I'm doing dinner in shifts. That might be something that looks like sitting with 1 or 2 kids while they eat and chatting with them before we head out the door for their activity. And then maybe all coming back together later for a light snack while other family members are finishing their dinner. So it's key here to remember, don't strive for perfection. Go for practical, not perfect. It's the quality time, conversation, and creating memories that are the main goal. And then to optimize your time together at the table, it's important to focus on connection. Prioritize conversation and connection in addition to, of course, the nourishment, what's being served at the table. And I'm excited to share this because now that my kids and teenagers are a bit, just different schedules and busier, the family mealtime really provides my husband and me with just a small window of opportunity to check in on their well-being, to laugh and just talk about our days. And so for many years now, I mean, probably close to a decade, we've been practicing a conversation starter. We didn't coin this phrase, but we fondly call it pits and peaks. So rather than asking what might be considered a dead end question, like how was your day at school, which we'd probably get a meh or okay response to, we take turns, go around and share our pits and peaks for that day. So it allows each family member to share a not so great moment, which would be their pit, and then really a highlight or favorite part of their day. And I'll share that, spoiler, though probably not surprising to fellow parents that are listening, but my peak for the day is often, frankly, in that moment. Yes, sharing the meal, but the time with my favorite people. And engage in conversation, folks. Again, open-ended questions help to promote more chatting around the table. Maybe you're going to ask what went well today, what they could hope for better tomorrow, what are they looking forward to over the next several days, coming up with different conversation starters that encourage respectful and pleasant conversation. I'll mention that it's been shown time and again that family meals improve family functioning, especially when really fostered in that positive setting. I know it's tempting. I have been there. I've probably made mistakes along these lines, but really do your best to avoid discussing what can lead to more stressful topics like poor grades or relationship woes or eating habits. But instead, optimize this time. Use your family table to encourage kind words, respect, and of course, laughter. And again, when we think about distractions, turning off the phones, I know that could be tricky in this digital age, but do your best to make the family dinner table a no phone zone, limit other distractions such as the TV or background conversations. Use this time truly for years to be with your loved ones and engage in that conversation and joy. So of course, barriers to family meals often include too little time, obviously schedule changes, maybe coming up with different menus or recipes for different dietary differences at the table, different food prep challenges. Though I think the biggest barrier for families is time constraints and busy schedules. I am living this, folks, between work schedules, school, afternoon, evening activities, certainly leading to conflicting schedules, making it really difficult for the 5 of us to have multiple nights consistently where we're sitting down together. I think each of us most week have a combination of days when we have a slight surplus of time, and then days where we have a little bit of time, and frankly, days where we say we truly have no time. So to strive to make, I think, shared meals more of a constant for you and your family, it's important to try to be thinking ahead about your weekly schedules and time. really trying to identify days when you can cook in bulk to make those subsequent meals easier, but also identify days that you know you have little to no time for much cooking at all. And then in response to that, be sure to have all the products on hand so that you can do the best, for each scenario. So meal prep would include items that can either be made ahead when you have some extra time, or that you can cook that at that time as well. Setting aside bulk or extra surplus for meals throughout the week. So for example, prepping a large amount of chicken to use in a casserole on a Sunday, and then setting aside an extra amount that you might use for a quick, chicken fajita meal on your upcoming busy Tuesday night. Shopping and keeping shortcuts on hand, such as salad kits, steamables, whole grains. I think these help to round out your meal and support balancing your family's plate. I really appreciate incorporating shortcut items like, as seen here, the rotisserie chicken, frozen veggies, maybe pre-made sauces to cut down on prep time when time falls short. And then grab and go items are that which might work well for the student athlete that literally sometimes feel like only pop home momentarily, or kids on their way to other activities. Some great options are shown here that are easy to carry and eat, like sandwiches, salads, other bowls paired with an easy to eat fruit. Other options might include portable proteins such as hard-boiled eggs, meatballs that can be eaten on the go, or maybe you prep a veggie box with, let's say, carrots, bell peppers, cucumbers, and pair that with a side of our single hummus cup. And I think, again, ultimately designing a spot in your home for most of your family meals is ideal, but I know firsthand that family dinners, including conversation, can certainly be done in the car when necessary. It's also important to note that meals do not need to be hot or cooked. A simple sandwich and a side of veggies, or something like a large sharing board that includes cheese, crackers, maybe hummus, fruit, nuts, can make for a balanced and enjoyable meal that work for, even different folks with different likes and preferences in your house. No-cook dinners that aim to include a variety of food groups, focusing on that balance, are really a win in my book. And one way to get everyone around the table excited for family meals is to lean into the season. So keeping things fresh, so you stay out of those food ruts that we tend to get into. And this also really helps you enjoy the season, the items, the freshness when you think of produce that is at its peak quality, which often then is at its most affordable price too. And I'd be remiss to not mention a current highlight for many folks with their family and friends this time of year, which is game day, the big game days. Yes, I was thinking about this, and I know I mentioned limiting distractions around meals, such as sitting in front of a television, but there, of course, are usually exceptions to the rules. And no matter what team that you're cheering for, game day is obviously a perfect opportunity to come together, share those connections, and root for, of course, the food. And I'm always excited to share with folks the many wonderful digital resources that you can find on Wegmans.com. And you would simply head to that page, click on there, the top of Wegmans.com, bringing you down to our Feel Your Best landing page, where you can search all things health and nutrition related. Under here, lifestyle and habits, you'll find a meal planning and shopping made easy guide with resources designed to help you answer that age-old question, what's for dinner tonight? Helping you, we feel, get easy and delicious meals onto your family table, including a PDF resource that I think Trish will help drop a link into the chat for. And this is a great tool with tips on how to stock your kitchen, to support your goals as well. And this is a neat tool too, offering inspiration how to use, we call 5 foods, 5 different ways. So definitely want to check that out as well. And with that, I'd like to join back with Trish to see if folks have any questions that we can help cover.
Brittany, that was great. And I loved that connection to your story. How funny that you were in the newspaper years ago.
Thank you.
Full circle moment.
For sure.
This was great. And really quick, before I jump into the first question, I do want to remind folks, if you have to leave the webinar before the end, or actually when you do close out, you'll get a link to complete a survey where you can give us some feedback. And if you're watching this on demand, you'll have the option to in the description for the on-demand webinar. Please take a few moments. We appreciate it because your feedback does help us improve these webinars and future topics too. So I wanted to take a moment to share that. And I did put in those links both to the Feel Your Best page and that PDF. So I hope that's a great resource for those of you that are here live today. Wow, Britt, I mean, you shared a lot of information. We do have some folks that have picky, or what some people might call selective eaters. And they were wondering if you had some tips in addition to what you shared about really trying to make this approachable. Do you have any tips, particularly when you're trying to encourage those family members to kind of expand their repertoire, if you will, around those balanced meals?
Yeah, Trish, such a great question. And frankly, totally makes sense, I think, right, that this topic would go hand in hand with family meals. And side note, one that I might just have some experience with at our own family table. I think, okay, so I mentioned before, goal of keeping family mealtime a positive environment. And again, with a little bit of experience, I know having a selective eater can sometimes disrupt that piece somewhat quickly. So I do think it's important to still remain focused on a calm, pressure-free environment, probably by serving familiar foods or favorite foods for kiddos or selective eaters alongside new foods, and actually letting kids choose what they eat from the available options that are at the table, which frankly, Trish, you probably agree, sounds counterintuitive to what many of us experienced or what we were taught, but it's actually not recommended to make different meals for different family members, as this tends to reinforce their picky behaviors. I'll say certainly patience is key, as most kids truly need multiple exposures to a new food before they accept it. And just as I'm thinking, circling back around to the many benefits of mealtime, just eating with your child and showing them what balanced eating looks like with a variety of foods, enjoying this time together can certainly help to expand their palate. And our colleague, Kirby, and she's a mom of three herself. Trish, I believe the webinar was titled "The Secret to Family Success, Mealtime Success." So she really did a nice deep dive into approaches and tips to helping kids, feeding kids at the table that decrease stress and increase joy. And you can certainly find this webinar on our ever-growing library of on-demand tools there on Wegmans.com. So I would encourage folks, especially if they're in that season of experiencing picky or selective eaters, to check that out.
Great points. And thank you for that reminder. And even on another plug, we have a whole section called Kids at the Table, which has an article with some links too on that Feel Your Best page. So lots of other resources to help point you in the right direction there. A few folks actually had some questions around, how do we also build that inclusiveness for individuals that might have a special dietary need? You might have somebody who's following a specific diet or has some nutrient goals they have to work for, or food allergy. So any tips for those groups?
Yeah, again, great question. And I think off the top of my head, I go back to that basic concept of balanced plate, offering a variety of foods from different food groups. So, and if needing, including options for common dietary restrictions, like if there's a vegetarian or, someone eating a gluten-free diet, but ensuring everyone has something to fill their plate. So, for example, if you think of protein, providing a range of options, maybe it's fish, beans, whole grains, vegetables, all which contain protein in varying amounts, yet can cater, I think, to different food preferences or restrictions at the same table. I think adapting recipes is another great tip to help make meals work for everyone at your table. Trish, we like to use the phrase, think of a recipe as a flexible framework, but it's true. You can substitute, you can do what works for you, oftentimes with recipes, especially with cooking. In our home, we actually like to do some build your own dinner nights, if you will. One of our favorites being grilled chicken thighs we use our Wegmans brand Southwest style marinade. And each family member can build their own bowl with options that meet their preferences, such as we like the brown rice, black beans, corn. I love the Wegmans frozen, the fire roasted sweet corn, salsa, queso. So everyone's bowl looks a little different, but it fits their nutrition profile or their preferences and their likes. And same could be said if there were allergies or other restrictions that were needed to be met. Same, maybe make your own pizza night where family members can, again, get creative with all sorts of toppings based on their needs. For gluten-free folks, starting with the Wegmans frozen gluten-free pizza crust would be a wonderful option. And that makes me think of, too, keep in mind our Wegmans brand products and recipes carry our wellness key or easy to spot those dots that are designed to help you just at a quick glance determine how each product helps you meet your wellness goals. So for example, the high fiber wellness key would be beneficial for the general population, whereas something like our gluten-free or vegan key are geared more towards folks with those specific dietary needs.
Those are great tips, Britt. And actually, I love the idea about the build your own bowl, because it actually is another strategy for the earlier question about the selective eaters too.
Right,
give them
right.
exposure without giving them pressure. Yeah,
sure.
That's great. That's great. One other theme that came up from a couple people: how do you blend those unique family dynamics? I know you touched on it a little bit before. I mean, you might have different generations. Or some people that are eating at different times. How do you try to bring that opportunity of a family meal when you're dealing with some of these different schedules or generations?
Yeah, sure. I think, of course, when there are different dynamics or lifestyles involved within the family mealtime, including, as you said, those multi-generation within the same home, I think it presents both a challenge and actually can be rewarding, obviously, as well. So that big picture of the benefit of eating together, which is overall support for both physical and mental health. And specifically when we think of our older or aging population, there is research that points to the unfortunate effects of loneliness and its connection to poor nutrition when more meals are eaten alone. So in return, sharing meals with family members, obviously with aging adults, improves nutrition and helps them, in their physical and mental health as well. But challenges certainly come into play with different schedules and meal times and trying to sit down together when there is that larger age gap. I think even some parents might struggle to eat dinner time at the same time, maybe when their toddler or young child is ready to eat. And actually, I once heard this referred to as the split shift family dinner, and that actually really resonated with me. I'll reshare that idea of mix and match family concept again. I do think, and maybe you agree, that it's a common misconception that family dinner can only count, if you will, if there's not a single person missing. But I just, there's no truth to that, because again, with busy and different lifestyles and dynamics, your meal times can still be just as meaningful if, say, big sister's at dance class, a parent is working late, maybe a toddler's already tucked into bed early. Again, certainly we can come up with different dimensions to have folks sitting down at the table in different pairs, or maybe you try to create pods within your family so at least two folks are sitting down together at any given time. And consider meals on busy evenings that maybe reheat well or families can grab from, such as like a slow cooker recipe, a stew, a chili with a salad ready to go, so that it might be different times, different mix and match of folks, but people are eating the same, you're making the one meal. I do think, again, make it a goal to gather everyone around the table when you can, but when you can't, consider options that really work best for your family dynamic.
Great tip. And I had never heard of the split shifts before. So yeah. So wonderful. And I'm sorry, we are right at time. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. We hope this information was helpful for you. Please take a minute to fill out the survey, and we hope you all feel your best. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.